There are more than 150,000 villages and settlements in Russia. In 36,000 of them, there is only one person living. And another 20,000 are completely uninhabited. By the number of dead villages, the Tver region takes first place. There, 2,500 small settlements are left without residents. The houses stand, but there are no people in them anymore. Mitya Aleshkovsky and I went to the Tver wilderness to see what is happening there and try to understand why Russian villages and settlements are dying out.
The houses stand, the last people left last year.
There is no work at all. Almost all the youth are in the city.
And the grannies here are all over 80, almost 90.
We lost 400,000 people since the 70s. This is Tver modern days.
It's hard to believe that in just 25 years, everything could have gone like this.
We are driving on the highway between Vishny, Volochek and Torzhok. Along the road, a depressing landscape, overgrown fields, collapsed houses, and not a single living soul. We stopped in the village of Kozhakino. In 2010, when in Russia was conducted the census, 17 people lived here. Now out of dozens of houses, only 2 show signs of life. We were just driving along the highway and...
Here, it's really important to understand that from Vishny Volochek, which is over there, and to Torzhok, which is over there, it's an absolutely deserted zone because here lived people who spent their whole lives working in the fields. On collective farms, in agriculture generally. Here, if you turn the camera like this and show this, it's not a grove, it used to be a field. This is what agriculture looks like here. There's also a field over there. Everywhere where you see a young growth, it's a field. Look, there's a phone booth.
The phone is there, yes. By the way, it seems it doesn't work.
I'm sure it works.
But no one ever came close to it.
Of course, no one did. But I'm not sure people actually live here. Because right here, probably someone lives because it's clean.
Yes, here.
And there a dog is barking. But here everyone is just dead. Yes. And this village is on the highway, which is important, right? Here, obviously, no one.
There is one house left in the whole village.
Yeah.
Because all these, look, one after another, they all, of course, have broken windows. Nobody even looted these houses.
Everything that could be taken has been taken from here.
Yes?
I assure you, yes. And here, they straight up burned it down. Most villages are in this condition.
What a nightmare. These are the gates. Look, they're all overgrown.
Yes, yes, yes. This is what's happening right now. People are dying. That's it. They have no future, no life. Look, there's a baby stroller lying over there. People lived here, I think, 5 years ago, or maybe 6.
So you mean this is happening right now? Listen, here, even the windows, the curtains, everything collapsed. And was all this taken?
Of course.
Is that what you mean? That when people leave a house, they take everything?
They even cut everything up for firewood. They take all the metal.
Man, they seriously even tore up the floors. Look.
It happens instantly. They take anything that can be sold, even for a little.
They dismantled the stove. Look, there's a calendar hanging. Year 2002. They dismantled the stove. This is the next stage of looting. When there's nothing valuable left in the house, they start taking it apart for bricks and logs.
Now look, here's a perfect example. Important point. Do you see that cutout?
Yes.
Do you know why? For firewood.
It's all for firewood?
Of course, there's a whole cutout right there.
Really, that's it? One house left. That's it, we've reached the end.
Yes, yes, yes. That house over there seems to be lived in, I think.
You think?
Well, there are windows at least. Ah, yes.
So here are only 2 houses lived in here.
Yes.
2 residential houses, one at the beginning, the other at the end. All the rest is gone, nothing else remains.
And we are 20 minutes away from the city. We are driving to our village now. A granny used to live in the neighboring house. This is the first summer she didn't come. She's alive, just sick, in Vishny Volochok. Her grandson came for some reason and stole all the metal from her house. The tap in the bathhouse where the water boils. What for? They also asked him, Lekha, why did you do that? And he was like, what, why? It's metal, and nobody needs it. And it's his family home. And here nature will take over. You can already see it happening. Actually, we are passing by the remains of villages. These were all huge villages. A huge number of people lived here. Everything around here used to be plowed. And here comes a school bus, for example. Then schools everywhere are closing, only those in bigger towns remain. Like in Yesinovichi. Yesinovichi used to be a district center, and now I think there's no such district even. It is a completely burnt out land here. People have no prospects at all. Absolutely nothing. I mean, if you live here, you don't really see the point of living at all. You don't understand what to live for. You don't understand how to survive. The options are either to drink yourself to death or to just die. Our last resident of the village, for example, Lekha, died from the cold. He just froze drunk in his village on New Year's. In his house, opposite him, in the neighboring village, a granny died of starvation a few days later. The 21st century. And all of this used to be lived-in land. There used to be whole clusters of villages. For example, our village, and behind it another, and then another one. Sometimes there were even old stone roads and so on. And now you drive by. There's one little house standing. There used to be a village here. What's left of it now? Nothing is left, just ruins and a water pump. We entered the village Kuzlovo. It was huge. Look at it. See how many buildings are there. It was giant. It was a proper rural settlement, actually. Yes? And there was a church here, a cemetery. Over there was an estate where the world-famous artist... See that building? Over there. The world-famous artist Jawlensky was born. And now everything is basically gone. Everyone around here ended up drinking themselves away. Here is the only one hard-working person living. And that's it. This was a field. I still remember seeing it with my own eyes. This field. This one. It was sown and harvested here. They haul timber through here. That's why they built the road. This also was a field.
So there was no forest?
No, of course. It's striking, meaning this shows how much effort was put in to reclaim this from nature, and how quickly nature reclaimed it back, and how much effort it will take to reclaim it back again, if one suddenly wants to. Look, we're even looking at the map, right? And on the map here it's not green, it's a field. There's forest all around here, but it shows up as a field.
Mitya came here for the first time 25 years ago. Back then, Duplyovo still had lively village life. The fields around the village were plowed and sown, people did farming, houses were in good condition.
People lived here. There was a house there, people lived there. Stas, who probably died somewhere now. This is our house. Lusya lives here. The last resident of this village lived here. Lekha, he froze and died from the cold on New Year's Eve.
Did he die this new year?
No, several years ago. Now Lusya lives here.
Now Lusya lives here. Lusya lives for two villages, Duplyovo and Kozhakino. Both of them are on the brink of extinction.
Hello, guys.
Hello?
I'm Lusya.
Lusya is the last guardian of this village.
Tell them I'm a neighbor from Kozhakino.
Yes, there was a village there. What usually happens in Kozhakino?
People are drinking, as always. I went there yesterday. They told me to come to Duplyovo, so I came.
And what did they drink there? But Yenot died?
Yes,
And what did they drink?
some kind of chemicals.
There was a man here who was killing everyone. His name was Yenot. His name was Yenot. Yenot was a bastard who was selling a substance for what? For washing pools, right?
Oh yes, ethyl alcohol.
Well, some kind of chemical. So he was selling this scum. And everyone died. Literally everyone from it. Right on this very spot there was a cart. And Vasya and Lekha both died. Vasya died here next to the toilet.
Yeah, and the other one, right by the threshold.
Just by the threshold, they sit, drink, and vomit. And still drink,
But they keep drinking.
and still they drink. Why do you drink, I ask. Because I bought a bottle.
So they were drinking some crap?
Pool cleaning liquid?
You understand? It happens from glass like this. Sometimes they even drink windshield washer fluid. Or cologne. Anything. Corvalol. Now that Yenot's gone, they just died one after another.
Now that was a real buddy. Got the whole crew wasted.
But he burned down.
Yes, he had a fire.
How? What happened to him?
He went out to get some hay while carrying a bundle. Where he kept his livestock, the wiring was in really bad shape. And it caught fire where the livestock was. The house didn't burn. The livestock burned. And then it spread to the house.
Was he in the house?
No, he was carrying hay and saw that the cows were burning. He opened the door, went in, and that was it.
So here, in 1 year with a difference of 3 days, in this village, in this house, a man froze to death drunk, and in that village an old woman died of hunger. What shocked me the most is when that granny was dying, her son was drinking in the same house. So she was lying behind
Behind the stove. And that's it. She just lay down. And who would give her food if he was drinking there? He found some woman on the street and was drinking with her. I used to go over to her place just to help out.
Why did she die?
From hunger, someone came, called an ambulance, and said that thanks to the tea, a glass of tea and jam from red currants I prepared for her, only because of that, her heart held on. Granny, want an egg? Nah, I can't fit anything else in me.
So she died from hunger?
Well, almost. One tea inside. She lay like this for 2 months.
And her son was just drinking?
Exactly.
Here, cases like this are not uncommon.
Yeah.
When we came here, all of this, about 25 years ago probably, all this was fields. Everything here was sown, everything was plowed. There was a flax factory in Yesinovichi. There was also another village, Drozdovo.
Drozdovo, yes.
Behind it is Pankovo.
Ah, Pankovo is on the side.
Yes, everything was on the side there. All were villages. Now Drozdovo is already a forest, not even fields. Nothing is left, not a single house remains, not even one.
Now even Zitovo is gone. If you come now, there will be a range. You will see.
Everything here is empty here, and those who remain are either old people or alcoholics. There is no one else here at all. Is there any youth still in Yesinovichi?
There is.
Yes, there is a school probably, right?
Yes. There's a big school. And from Buklovo to the very... Fishino takes the kids to the central Yesinovichi school. They take kids by bus. But yesterday, the bus didn't come. And yesterday, I went to Grandma Anya. I said, "Why are you here, Yegorka?" He said, "The bus broke down."
And that's it.
And that's it, yes. But the kid was happy.
Lusya, what happened? Why did they mess up the road like this?
See, they are hauling wood.
From right there. And now from there.
Everything is fine there, fine.
Are they cutting it illegally or do they have permission?
Permission?
Well, destroying everything officially then.
Yes. I sat here a little while, and they gave me something so I wouldn't shout. Well, who else would bring it to me?
Yeah.
Normally you'd have to pay 5,000, but here for free. What?
Lusya worked her whole life as a winder at the factory. In 1972, she even received the Lenin Komsomol Award for achievements at work.
Why did you get the award with Kobzon?
I came up with the idea that we shouldn't work on 25 spindles, but on 50. I'm a factory girl. There were only 11 or 10 of us. Those were the weavers, who were Komsomol members, and I was the winder.
Besides the diploma and badge, the award winners were given 2,500 rubles. At that time, that was a decent amount of money. But nowadays, this honorary title is not considered when calculating pensions. Now Lusya receives about 15,000 rubles, 14,700. Can you live here on that money?
In the village, yes. In the city, no.
In the city, no?
In the village, you've got everything of your own, you know? I have my own potatoes, also cabbages. Look, still there.
There used to be horses here, more than one. And cows, too. Yes, sheeps, pigs, chickens.
Why do you think all this is happening?
There's no work here at all. Almost everyone leaves for the city. All the youth are in the city.
What can you do here now, in the village? You say there's no work?
None at all. No livestock, nothing. Not even at the complex.
The cause of the dying out of many villages was the state policy in the 90s, when collective and state farms were basically abandoned to their fate. This led to the population moving to larger towns and cities.
These remnants of the Soviet past, collective and state farms, they're vanishing like ghosts from the past. Some held on until the very end, but now it's falling apart. And the mindset of a rural person is kind of like this. We've lost everything. Maybe some farmer will come and it will be better than under the collective or state farm, but psychology says the exact opposite. They start to panic and leave, because back then, you could just hop on a tractor and plow your potato field. And now if there's no collective farm, where do you go? Who do you pay? And how much? And so on. You understand? Each village had a stable. Every collective farmer had the right to take that horse, bring in hay, plow their garden, and so on.
In the village of Duplyovo, almost all abandoned houses are still standing strong. They could be used as summer houses, if it weren't for thieves and looters. Listen, what will happen to these villages next?
Who the hell knows? I don't know.
Is everything gonna die out?
It will die out, of course, but Muscovites are buying here.
But they don't live here. So what's the point then?
If you go out now and drive, first you'll pass our Kozhakino, then Makarino. But what's the use if Muscovites bought the place? As soon as you leave, you get robbed. They gotta eat too. That's why they steal.
And even Muscovites get robbed?
Yes, completely. Now there are only 2 native grannies left there. One's 87, the other's 85.
So Muscovites have to bring their stuff and take it back with them?
Yeah, even taking their own TV with them. Because things get stolen instantly, and in spring they even take up the floors. Everything gets stripped. Some kind of metal detector guys come around, digging everything up like the metal's been sitting here for 20 years. But I've already gotten used to this village.
In the 70s and 80s, there was a plan to put up plaques where the disappeared settlements used to be. There used to be a village called this here, and a settlement called that there. The first mention of it was back in such year. But now this cannot be done because everyone is armed with metal detectors. And then the damage to archaeology will be many times greater because everyone will start sweeping everything away. And we will kind of help them by pointing out where it might be. We're already losing everything because these black diggers don't work with science. We can't even...
So what exactly are they looking for?
Everything. Old coins, arrowheads, and all sorts of stuff. You know how the black market is. All of Russia is divided into sectors, and antiques are sold on the underground markets. Lusya, let me give you a hug.
Come here, my sweet bunny.
Stay strong, okay?
So is Mitya helping you?
Who?
Mitya.
Of course.
Good, that's the most important. Goodbye.
Okay, we're off. Yes.
Next, we headed to the village of Ivanovskoye. Back in the day, it was home to the famous Blue Lakes holiday house, known all across the Soviet Union.
This building is old, from the early 19th century. It's the estate of Ivan Terentьевich Snazin.
What was here before?
First an estate, then there was a holiday house here. We used to go here from school, back then, to Blue Lakes. Since Soviet times, it's been called Blue Lakes. But the estate was the Ivanovskoye of Vsevo. The first owner was Snazin, who built this upper part of the estate. There was a wooden house here. It burned down.
Which part of the estate? This one?
These are all wings. And what was here? I mean, what did the estate live off back then? The estate lived on serfs. There were quite many serfs. Snazin was an associate of Pavel I, a general. The general rank allowed him to live lavishly. Therefore, the estate was built quite well. That's all Soviet-era remodeling, the concrete pouring and everything else. But there was apparently something here in the Soviet times. Of course, back when it was a holiday house, there were all kinds of utility buildings, rooms for evening activities, even classrooms. They used to bring kids here from all over the region. The doors, by the way, are original, carved, and antique. Real old ones like that.
Yeah, looks pretty sad. Basically, the whole village worked in this holiday house. About 500 people could stay here at the same time, but there were many more who wanted to. So during Soviet times, new blocks started to be constructed here. But then came Perestroika, and later the collapse of the USSR. They never managed to finish the construction. The economic crisis totally wiped out the Blue Lakes.
I'm an experienced grandma now, getting close to 80.
Did you work here?
Yes, I did.
What kind of work?
As a maid, there were no other jobs around here.
Is there any work here now?
There is no work here at all now.
When did the guest house close?
Oh, a long time ago. Everything was stolen. Locals stole everything. These huge trucks would come and park right over there.
No way.
And they hauled it all away.
Pretty clear, because no windows.
They took everything.
No walls, no floors left.
This was unfinished here, but there were frames, windows, radiators.
Did people live there?
The wiring was battery-powered, and they took it all, stripped everything.
As soon as they saw there was no owner, they took it all out. That's how it happens here.
Someone bought this place here. I don't know his name. Bought it, then resold it, then left abroad. We only have registration here. No papers, no official lease or anything.
There's just one store left here, and that's it?
Over these 25 years, it's insane how much has happened. It's terrifying to even talk about. Hard to believe everything could fall apart like this in just 25 years.
How many people live here now in total?
Oh, few live here now, mostly old local grannies. And they all are over 80, almost 90.
And all the youth left?
There's no youth at all.
When you arrived, how many people were there?
About 1,000.
1,000, I see. So 90% left?
Yes, almost. Because back then, tons of people came here. They'd rent out any old shed just to have a bed for the night. Yes, everyone came to relax, to go for walks, to pick berries, to hunt for mushrooms. And let me tell you, our berries and mushrooms were the best because it's so remote out here. I actually love it here, the peace and quiet.
Here's what surprises me. Tver region was a treasure trove of noble estates. They were everywhere here, tons of them.
Yeah.
And now they're all totally run down. This is a territory between St. Petersburg and Moscow? Yes. Here were noble granted lands. Everything's gone. Here, for example, Venezianov visited Snazin when the church was consecrated. The church, of course, was not preserved. It was blown up in Soviet times and replaced with a fuel storage. Snazin, the founder of this estate, is buried here, somewhere under the ruins. For example, Venezianov came to visit him. Karl Ivanovich Rossi built the church for him. When he was the provincial architect of Tver, he built here the church of the Nativity of John the Baptist. All kinds of people have been here. Levitan painted his Over Eternal Peace nearby on the lake at Domlia. Golden Autumn was painted here. March, another Levitan's painting also. And so, if you name them all, will be Repin, Quinji, Moravov, Zhukovsky, Belyanitsky Beryulia, Bogdanov Belsky, Grabar. And it's an incomplete list of those who visited these places.
Hey, what do you think? Why do places like these that seem so rich with nature, close to Moscow, great logistics, there's even the Sapson train and everything you could want? Why don't they develop? Like tourism, all that potential, why is it all just dying out?
The thing is, in the 90s, they privatized and sold everything, and where those owners are now, God only knows.
Nothing can be done about this? I mean, all this.
Well, it's private property, kind of, but where is the owner? Like she said, probably somewhere abroad. The last loss of the Snazin Palace was a beautiful balcony grille in Gothic style. We came with tourists just last weekend. I go inside and see the grille cut off, gone. But the house is very interesting. At one time, it was the symbol of blue lakes. Postcards were printed with this house. Everyone took pictures in front of it. It was a must to bring a photo from the holiday house with a sign. So people always took pictures in front of this house. There was also a beautiful exit to the lake shore.
And since what year has it been abandoned?
It was all abandoned all at once.
So, about 10 years ago, right?
Yes, in 10 years everything was taken out. But what was inside? Inside? Well, something like a club. So, there was nothing authentic left. Everything was authentic there. Everything was? Yes. So, 10 years ago, this building was still preserved, in perfect preservation. It had already been restored. See, the roof was replaced recently. It still shines. So this is an architectural monument as well? Of course, it is. How could it not be? Frames, doors, floors, ceilings, coverings, decorations, everything was in order. This is the Gasler house, the last owners of the Ivanovskoye of Sevo estate. This is the fourth generation of owners. They were all relatives of Snazin, the first owner and builder of this estate. But the second wave of estate construction dates exactly to the beginning of the 20th century. So this house is from the beginning of the 20th century? It is from the beginning of the 20th century, so you see there is such a very interesting combination in style. There is modern and Gothic, all mixed, a little bit of everything.
Is it not state property?
It's private property as well.
Also private, and the owner?
Someone owns it. Here, starting from the original doors, see the frames, Gothic ones.
Wow.
Here's the tile. And here, see, all wooden stairs, all of that was original too. Unbelievable. They've destroyed it to this state in just 10 years. Where were the living rooms? Over there. The living rooms were upstairs, of course. This is like the main hall. What is it? The living room, the dining room. Here are the remains of parquet. You can go upstairs, even out onto the balcony. Here was the main disappointment of my last tour. There was a very beautiful balcony grille. We went out with tourists, looked at the remains of former luxury.
And when did that grill disappear?
Well, this year it...
This year! They also stole the grill!
Yes. Iron. Well, there were about 5 kilograms of this iron here, but it was cut off anyway. Now people will get to the roof. The roof was already torn off by the wind, and that will be it. That's the end of this house. It will completely collapse.
Речь идет про памятник истории, архитектуры, уникальный для нашей страны.
We are talking about a historical and architectural monument unique for our country, and that now it is in such a condition that the owner doesn't care, that it's all falling apart, and nobody cares. It's a bit strange. Libertarians will start hating me and complaining now, but I think there should be some rules, and the government should somehow regulate these issues. If the owner allows the property to be in such condition, they should be fined, punished, and through the court, the property should be taken from them and restored.
Забирать у нее эту собственность и приводить ее в порядок.
I think it's not a matter of owners, it's a matter of circumstances. In good circumstances, the owner would not abandon such a building. Architectural monuments are protected by law. The owner has no right to keep it in such condition. It's a violation of the law. But the problem is completely different. Absolutely, you simply cannot do repairs here just like that, because here you have to follow the old architectural structure and so on. But the question is completely different. We are talking about a different problem. The problem is that it's impossible to maintain it profitably in the Tver region.
Why did it happen?
The Tver region died. Because in the Tver region during the 90s, 2000s and 2010, the following situation occurred. On one hand, a whole generation died out, and on the other, a whole generation of nobody's people grew up. This region economically in the Soviet Union was, well, a zone of risky farming and subsidized. And now, from an economic point of view, it's not profitable to do anything here. There are no tourist routes that can pay off such a story. There is no production that can boost the local economy, so locals would come here. What is there to do here? Well, Mitya, I don't agree with you. First of all, it's too early to bury us. No. And then there's still some tourism potential. Yes, no one's arguing that it exists. The question is that, and I hope our Ministry of Tourism and all the rest hear this, we keep supporting festivals like Pozharsky cutlets, Seliger fish pies, Seliger itself. Oh, and Zavidovo is supported, where Moscow summer homeowners live. But this area, it's abandoned. What we need first of all is to attract investors here. Now about tourism. You know, first of all, there's a place called Rayok near Torshok, and you've probably heard of the Rayok estate of Glebov-Streshnev. It's a gorgeous manor. The house is shaped like a cucumber with a colonnade. They've been trying to restore it for 40 years. No one's been able to. Who's trying to restore it? Tver factories were trying. Various social sectors were trying. They wanted to turn it into a resort. Private individuals tried. One private guy even had a friend, Lundgren, that Hollywood actor. He came over, they had some kind of plans. That all collapsed too, you see? So apparently we have neither the power nor the funds to restore even one 18th century estate. But I think we're paying for our geopolitical location. You get it? That's supposed to be an advantage, the crossroads of all roads. Yes, it was an advantage in the 19th century when Pushkin changed horses in Torzhok and wrote poems on the walls of Pozharsky's inn. That became a brand, right? Or when he ate Pozharsky cutlets. But now the M11 highway bypasses everything.
There are many reasons why people are leaving their homes. There's no work in villages and rural towns, schools and hospitals are closing, the roads are terrible or simply non-existent.
Where does the death of a village start? First, with the death of education. There used to be small schools with teachers, maintenance staff, a few students. Then they were consolidated. Yes, they were consolidated, the schools closed, teachers were partly laid off, maintenance staff were laid off. People were forced to send their kids 40 or 50 kilometers to school. Will anyone stay in a village like that? Say I have kids, would I drive them 50 kilometers there and 50 back every day? That's a serious expense. Schools were closed. That's already a reason to leave this place. Once people start leaving, any motivation to live here disappears. And they tell us the government now has a new approach, saying, we close schools because there are no people left. But it's the other way around. There are no people left because they close schools and stop building hospitals.
Rural schools and hospitals are disappearing faster than the villagers themselves leave. In the past 20 years, the number of rural schools has decreased by nearly half and hospitals by 4 times. This problem has affected the village of Yesinovichi too.
This is Yesinovichi. It used to be a district center in the mid-20th century. Now I think maybe 500 people live here. In the Soviet Union, this village was known for producing skis and rockets.
About 10 years ago, Yesinovichi had an entire medical complex used by people not only from the village itself, but also from nearby villages. Now all that's left are half-ruined hospital buildings.
They had an X-ray, they had surgery. Now, the only medical help in Yesinovichi is paramedic care, a paramedic station. Not only in Yesinovichi, in fact, for the entire area, all the way to Vishny Volochok.
So why is this happening here? Why did everything close? Why did everything fall apart?
Well, supposedly it's not economically viable to maintain it. Expensive, right?
I see a whole bunch of buildings here.
Of course. There was a flax plant nearby. Hat also went bankrupt. These fields used to grow flax. It was harvested and processed. Right here, there was a flax plant settlement. Everything died. But they shut the hospital down. And then, in Yesinovichi, they kept just an old building. Maybe it used to be a school or something, and turned it into something like a hospice, a dying ward. That's it. No other medical help left. So if anything happens to us here, we have to go to Torzhok or Vishny Volochok. I can give you a few examples from our own experience over the past 25 years. Aid for my father was coming from Vishny Volochok. They barely saved his life, and only by pure chance. It took a long time for them to arrive, and only because we begged them. A neighbor grandma, her blood pressure was close to 200, like I said. No ambulance ever came. Another grandma lay on the ground for a whole day. No one noticed. People were just stepping over her in that drunkard village. She was out in the rain, nearly in a coma. Again, we had to beg for the doctors to come.
There aren't roads everywhere in Tver Oblast, so medics often can't reach patients, especially in bad weather. In addition to shutting down schools and hospitals, the authorities are also pursuing a policy of consolidating settlements. And that's pushing rural residents to move to the cities even more.
It's unthinkable. Look, take the Vishnevolodsky district. The population is 22,000. That's large for our central Russian region. It's a normal population size for a rural area in the early 21st century. The territory is 1,000 square kilometers larger than Luxembourg. And this entire area, where in some places there are no roads, and it's literally impossible to get through, is being merged with the city. It becomes a unified budget. As a result, in Vishny Volochok, first of all, electricity in the villages has gotten more expensive because the urban tariff gets automatically applied. The land tax, 10 times higher. It's expected to go up tenfold. Can you imagine what that means? It'll be a full-on retreat, an exodus from the villages.
Это будет такой отход полный, бегство из деревень.
If the rural population of Tver Oblast used to significantly outnumber the urban population, now it's the opposite. Today the region has more than 1.26 million residents, of which only about 300,000 remain in villages and rural settlements.
Russia is an agrarian country. And what does that mean? It means the rural population is larger than the urban one. For example, according to the 1997 census, in the Tver governorate we had 8% urban and 92% rural population.
And now?
Now it's the other way around. About 80% urban population and just about 20% rural, which is also dying off sharply, declining fast. Since the 1970s, we've lost 400,000 people. That's the size of modern-day Tver, For our region, that's a massive number, 400,000.
То есть вот такое гигантское, так сказать, для нашего региона, это гигантская цифра, 400 тысяч.
In roughly 3,500 villages in Tver Oblast, fewer than 10 people live today. Just a little longer, and those places will be empty too. No one expects the situation to change because people are leaving not only the villages and rural settlements, cities in the region are also struggling with population loss. Am I right in understanding that there's not a single locality in Tver Oblast except Tver itself where the population is growing?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Tver itself has grown by about 700 people since 2017. But the northern part of the region is dying off dramatically. Vishny Volochok has lost 30,000 people and continues to shrink by 800 a year. Also towns like Bologoye, and for some reason Konakovo, have lost around 10,000 residents each since the post-Soviet stagnation period. Towns like Rzew, Nelidovo, and Bezhetsk. And strangely enough, Torzhok is dying off the least, paradoxical as it may seem. And Konakovo, compared to the stagnation period, has lost only 4,000 people. The others have lost twice that much. This is clearly the effect of the region's geopolitical position when Moscow and St. Petersburg pull people toward them, and many leave.
Москва оттягивает, так сказать, на себя, уезжают многие.
If the authorities don't take action, the villages and rural settlements of Tver Oblast will simply vanish, and that could lead to serious consequences. For example, the complete collapse of agriculture in the region.
There are indicators of extinction and not just population numbers.
Не только
There's this foul desolation, the plant hogweed. It grows exactly where people have died or are dying out.
умер.
I have it too, for instance. Right there, see, there are hogweed thickets,
Я,
and their seeds are flying into the garden. I don't know what to do with them.
летят на огород, и я не знаю, что с ними делать.
This is the clearest indicator of the dying out of the non-Chernozem zone today, including the Tver governorate. See? Hogweed is everywhere.
Вот видите, борщевик, видите?
This used to be a field. Yes, of course. Not that long ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Ну да, 8, может быть. Вот сначала оно
Well, yes, or 8 maybe. First the hogweed takes over, then birches and aspens start pushing through, and then mushrooms appear. A hogweed field. Some hogweeds grow up to 4 meters tall, and this thick around.
борщевики достигают 4-метровой высоты, и вот
Like a tree? Yes, like a regular tree. Terrifying, yeah. Oh yes. Where are we going? We're heading towards Avrazhye. We've got 2 villages there, Diadino and Chudinovo. Chudinovo is dead, and Diadino is half dead.
умерла, а дядина полумертвая.
Well, here the village starts. This is what it looks like. A lived-in house, and right next to it a collapsed one. Lived in and collapsed. That's what a half-dead village looks like, yes.
Мертвая деревня, да.
The village of Diadino used to have about 100 houses. Now there's barely a flicker of life in 10 of them. This is a real village.
It's the kind where you can see it's dying, house by house. Look, there was even a 2-story house. That means it was wealthy. That's very rare, a 2-story house with window frames carved out.
Yeah, one half is rotted through, the other still has someone.
You can tell it's lived in.
This one is lived in, yes.
I'd say most likely summer residence. If the curtains are drawn, it's definitely summer residence.
Summer residents come to Diadino only in the season, and even then, not always. There are very few permanent residents left, and only one household still keeps any livestock.
А хозяйство держит лишь в одном доме.
How many people live here now? How many houses are still inhabited?
I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 people.
And before?
There were much more. There used to be 100 houses here.
And what kind of farming do your parents do?
All sorts, cows, chickens.
More for themselves, right?
Well, of course.
And around here, is there anyone else who still has a farm?
No.
No one in any of the nearby villages?
Well, in ours, no one else.
Unbelievable. I just came back from Kaluga and Tula regions. The landscapes are livelier there. People are plowing. Kaluga is one of the best regions in Russia, actually. Technically, it's still not Chernozem, though of course it's already almost there. But the economy is good there. It's better. This brings up the question, can governors actually make a difference or not? That governor brought in several major factories to the region at once.
Of course, there was Samsung.
Samsung, Volkswagen. Yeah, they assembled Volkswagens there. And the economy immediately, well, of course it gets a boost.
Получает какой-то.
Yeah, whereas here, in Tver Oblast, it mostly comes down to bad leadership. One governor after another, and it's never made a difference. Let's go in here.
Что-то уже вон. Нет?
What's inside? Well, clearly no one's been here for a long time. Everything here is, no, it's open. The door is open. And a 3-meter tall hogweed growing here. Mushrooms. It's been looted. A wardrobe. This one's pretty recent.
Этот. Печка,
There's a stove, a table, beds.
стол, кровати. И видно,
You can see that people live here. Most likely after the owners abandoned it, someone else moved in. Looks like makeshift sleeping bunks.
и видно, что
And you can see someone stayed here because a lot of sleeping places, stoves, a newspaper, by the way, from 2015. So it's not that old. Here you can see the table, and they've started dismantling the stove for bricks. They'll keep looting here.
его еще будут грабить этот дом.
Looting this house. See, they've only just started taking apart the stove bricks.
Well, the wardrobe clearly didn't fit through the door, so they just left it there.
This hogweed really is like a tree.
Падает,
Falls like a tree.
как дерево.
Now we're heading to the village of Chudinovo. There used to be a big farm here where a lot of people worked. Now there are only abandoned houses and impassable thickets left.
Вот.
Here, look. Yeah, the thickets are absolutely wild, and that is a logging road. They're cutting down trees there. The loggers, they're just parasites. These are people who destroy everything. They take the last of what's left. No doubt about it. They have a completely colonial mindset.
Колониальная совершенно такая психология у них.
So they just show up and cut down all the forest?
Yes, yes. Once I came to my favorite mushroom forest, and there were guys cutting trees. I said, where are you from? From Kozhakino. I said, guys, what are you doing? You used to come here for mushrooms all the time.
Приказ.
We have order. Cutting down the forest next to a residential village, that's just completely insane, I think.
So is this a completely dead village?
Well, yeah, it should be completely dead.
Judging by the hogweed.
There's a whole forest of hogweed here. Thickets. There was clearly a house here too, because there's an apple tree growing.
Здесь
There was a house here.
And here there was a house.
And here.
Over there is some strange house. It wasn't there 5 years ago. The blue one? Yeah, the one with siding. Maybe there's still one lived-in house.
There was a house here. It used to be a big, tightly packed village.
A big village, yeah.
A big village, but now there's nothing left.
деревня там, но сейчас уже все,
Everything's died out.
все вымершее,
Abandoned bus stop.
заброшено.
To our surprise, we actually found one inhabited house. Nina Nikolaevna came out to meet us. Hello.
Hello, good day. Are you the last resident of this village?
Well, yes.
How many people used to live here?
A lot back then.
How many houses were there?
If you look closely, there used to be houses all the way up to those trees. Right over there, up to the bend. All of it's gone now. There used to be houses all over, and a farm over there.
Там ферма была.
Is there any work in the village now?
No work in the village. Once the collective farm collapsed, there was one LLC, then another LLC, then a JSC, a complete mess, and someone bought it all up. First people from Moscow bought it and finished destroying everything.
Купил. Сначала москвичи купили, развалили до конца.
And around the village, are there any more inhabited places?
Here? No, but there was a village over there.
And what's there
The
now?
houses are still standing. The last people left last year.
The village deep in Tver's wilderness began rapidly losing its population in the early 2000s when young people started moving to cities. Can the village be revived?
The village?
Yes, today, in your opinion.
No.
No? So everything will die off and that's it.
Young people are leaving not because it's impossible to revive the village. They're just leaving.
Because there's no work.
Yes, that's the issue. There's no work. If there were jobs, it could be revived.
And who's supposed to create the jobs?
The young people themselves. But no one wants to come here. Yes, you said it right. Tver, even back in the Soviet days, was never the Black Earth region. What did we grow here? Oats, rye,
And flax. Flax?
flax. Yes, we lived off flax. So yes, the locals need to get moving. No, I don't mean the ordinary people. What can people do? If they started a farm here, even I, a pensioner, would go work there.
У меня ферма, я даже пенсионерка, пойду работать.
Every year, more and more rural residents leave their homes behind. Villages and rural settlements in Tver are quietly dying out right before our eyes, and all of this is happening just 200 kilometers from Moscow. If you like the video, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Post this video on Reddit and send the link to your friends on WhatsApp.